Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment on the weekend show. In my introduction, we mentioned how this is the third day since the End Bad Governance protest has started. What and how does this affect the average Nigerian? Now, we must start by saying it's quite unfortunate seeing pictures of private property being looted and destroyed. It's also unfortunate seeing members of the public and law enforcement agencies engaging in throwing blows. But one thing is sure, for the last 1 year, we've spoken on this show about the increasing price of food, increasing price of fuel. However, the government will tell you this is something we need to do because it's a pain we need to go through now. But the same presidency and government has promised to cut cost of governance. I recall seeing the Orasanye report, and we were told that it will be sorted out within 12 weeks and there would be some changes. 12 months after the president has been sworn into office, his cabinet hasn't seen any reshuffle, even though we've had complaints about some of the ministers. But what is the average Nigerian asking for? We'll be discussing this and the ongoing protests on the lifestyle segment. And joining us, we have
Honorable Usman Ibrahim, Northern United Muslim and Christian for Justice, Peace and Good Governance. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having
coming
me.
back on the show. We also have coming back Barrister Monday Ehimari Jeffrey, who's a principal solicitor, MJ Ehimari and Co. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
and Andrew Mamedu, Action Aid Nigeria, the country director. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'll start with you, Andrew. One of the things which Action Aid is known for is advocating about human rights and getting people out of poverty. Poverty is something we've seen on a lot of placards in the last couple of days. What's Action Aid's position on the ongoing protest?
Thank you very much. So Action Aid stands in solidarity with the protesters and the ongoing protest in the country. The reason is simple. Protest is a fundamental right, so it's guaranteed. It is when it is riotous or you get into looting and all that. So that has to be separated from protest. So let's not give a dog a bad name just to hang it. All across the world, protests are held, even in civilized climes till date. So you go to the UK, the US, in the UN, you have one group or the other protesting every day. So protest should not be seen as something that is negative. So for us as an organization, so when you hear people say, oh, you have people sponsoring the protest, it's okay to sponsor protests, so long as it's legitimate and their demands are legitimate. Now, that brings us to the issue of the citizens' demand, why this protest has been called for. The issue of bad governance or the issue of hunger or poverty. That is why people are protesting this period. And the question is, I think we all agree, even the government of the day agrees that there is poverty. The government agrees that there is hunger. 2-3 weeks ago, 20 trucks of rice for each state rolled out, several palliative, 50,000 naira. A couple of palliatives have gone out from the government. Like the word is, they are palliative, they are not long-term measures, but it is in recognition of the suffering of the people, and that is what government is responding to. But the question is, those measures, are they adequate? Are they dealing with the issues? The response is probably not. There are root causes, and that is what this protest is actually calling for. So the government needs to, so it's not enough to say, oh, we're already doing something, we're already sending out food, we're doing that. Perfect, those are good measures, but those are short-term. The long-term measure, the root causes of these issues, which would be issues of bad governance, issues of management of our resources, the commonwealth of our country. So why would the citizens have, through a social contract, we've come together and said, oh, we want a civil society. So citizens move away from state of nature. So first of all, you have the state of nature. So citizens move away from state of nature into willingly move into civil society. And within that civil society, then the citizens then say, we want to give the power, the authority to a group of persons to rule over us. And that is where government came about. So that's the social contract. And government, in turn, citizens would pay their taxes, obey the law, whatever government comes with. And government has the power and the responsibility to control the army, the currency, even to determine what I learn, so the curriculum in education, or our education, so-called education, right? Government has a right to determine all of that. So we give that whole responsibility to government. But in turn, government then has that obligation, has that responsibility to make sure that the welfare of citizens is guaranteed and the protection of life and property. That brings us away from the state of nature. That is a social contract. So once that is breached, clearly people then have an obligation or have a responsibility to hold the government accountable. And part of the measures to hold government accountable is, one of them is protest. So protest is legitimate anywhere in the world. And that is why for us as ActionAid, we stand solidly behind the protesters. Do we need to separate the protesters from the looters? Looters, those ones are criminals, and they should be dealt with as such.
Barrister, over to you. Nigerians are easily, adaptable people, which sometimes could be a bad thing. Because now this government, they've been in office for just 1 year, and Nigerians have been pushed to actually go out to protest situations. Now, do you think Nigerians have been pushed this way because of the lack of accountability from a tone-deaf government? A government that, over time, even with this protest going on, have shown zero emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you are not far from the truth. There is this popular saying, an hungry man is an angry man. With the position of things so far, sincerely, aligning myself to the position of my friend here, the first speaker, he said that sincerely there is hunger in the land, and this is visible, it's a reality. I don't think Nigeria are being pushed by anybody or any organization to do what they are doing. I think this is an expression from within. And all they are asking for is, government, reverse all your previous policies that has made life a living hell for us. There is nobody that this present economy, the present policy did not affect, unless we are trying to pay deaf ears to it. Maybe because we have one or two benefits, having been related to one or two persons in power. It has eaten deep. It has eaten really deep. I was opportune to be in the eastern part of Nigeria. I returned on Friday morning. That was the day of the protest. I couldn't get a flight. I had to use the road. And I can tell you the level of hardship I saw in Anambra. All you see is an expression of what Nigerians are facing. Coming out to protest is actually an expression. See, you don't need, within this last 6 months, we have seen hell. The masses have seen serious hunger and starvation. It might not get to us because we have one or two sources of income where we can actually manage to hide our families and loved ones, but sincerely, it has eaten deep. And all you see is an expression of anger from persons who have been affected by this. And I think all the government needs to do to reduce the tension in the country now is to give them a listening ears. Is to come out and look at what they are asking for. Let there be a negotiation, a one-on-one conversation between the government and the masses who have brought them into power. Okay, yes, we decided to run for this office just to ensure that you people are okay, to change the hands of time. Now we are here. What do we do? It shouldn't be a government for. It shouldn't be a government for the government. It should be for the people. It is not a Tinubu thing. It's Nigeria. It is Nigerians who you are there to serve. Every single leaders and politician stand to be a servant. You are to serve the masses. So if they are coming out and they are telling you that this policy A to Z you've done is not favorable to us, you have no choice but to reverse it. And I think this is just the agitation, sir.
You know, it's quite interesting, and Didi used the word tone deaf. In all that has gone on, the response from the government has been, oh, we've identified the sponsors of this. Oh, we're not interested in a regime change. Oh, it's opposition politicians. And it's very sad to see because the average Nigerian just wants to eat. And so even with all that is going on, I still see a huge disconnect between the government and the needs of the people. It's no longer even a demand. It's a basic need. And Honorable, this puts you in the spot because you've served in the Federal House of Representatives. You supported President Buhari's administration. And I recall prior to the election, you were on this show saying we should give President Tinubu a chance. That he has delivered before and he will. Do you still maintain the same position? And I ask this because the northern part of Nigeria has witnessed the most chaos during this protest. We've seen a lot of northerners and northern youth complain about being excluded even before this protest started. We've seen even the northern elites feel like their voices are being shut up or shut down. You had the likes of Senator Ningi, who had the dissenting voice, and he was suspended. You've had the likes of Senator Ali Ndume, who gave an interview, and he was asked to be removed from the House, the Senate leadership. Do you still have the same position which you had in the last administration and before the election?
Thank you, my brother. Good morning, everyone here. Actually, my position today a little differ from the question you asked, but I will manage to see if I can answer some. I would like to align with my brother here when we talk of government. Government is services. It's not about somebody want to have food on the table or whatever. But at the moment, you can see that I'm just talking about the unity. First, we northerners, there are some vacuums and spaces that we don't want to understand that. Like if you see the groups that I'm representing, it's about the Northern United, Muslim and Christians for justice and good governance, also peace. First, we have to achieve this one. And by the time we've got this, then I think the rest is going to be history. First, Nigerians were in a hurry. We carry A, B, C, and Z, what have you, just to make sure somebody has an achievement and want to make sure that he got it. No. First, let us understand that, is there any unity or purpose? Before, when you talk of legitimacy or whatever, legality, what have you, about protest. Protest is something else. Protest is just a norm. When there's democracy, definitely there's a pause. If you remember, during the military era, there's a protest as well. That's issues that we have to solve by us, Nigerians. We should understand that this country belongs to all of us. We should understand that not all of us one day will become a president. It's just one that God will announce to be president. It's not about that I supported former President Muhammadu Buhari or President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. No, I'm supporting the unity of this country. And I want that unity to stand. Let us remove sentiment. What are the next things for this country to thrive and be among us? We always borrow things from outside. Comparing America, comparing England, comparing the rest. Did they have a kind of junks, the Democrat type of our type? No. The question is no. Let us understand that first let us achieve that unity of purpose.
Honorable, sorry to interject, but you've answered the question and your prayer for Nigeria, I think, has been answered because I have seen this protest as a unifying factor for Nigerians. I've seen videos which I find very commendable where you have Christian youths protecting Muslim youths while praying. You've seen Christians and Muslims come together to speak against hunger. This is one of the first times where religion hasn't been brought into the mix. Normally in Nigeria, when there's any situation, there's also that conversation about Christian and Muslim. As part of this protest, you're not even hearing Nigerians complain that the president has given the juiciest positions to people from his region, which was a conversation which had started. And unfortunately, and Karl Marx has said this, sometimes when you push people to the wall, at some point they would react. I don't think it's still a question of unity because if there's anything This suffering and what people are going through have united them at this point in time. However, the buck stops at the president's table and the governors across the states. Just every month, they show us how much FAC allocation has been shared out to the states, but the people aren't feeling it. Your region, their leaders when it comes to agriculture, everyone was complaining about the price of tomato some months ago. Nothing was done about it. So realistically speaking, now that we do have a consensus of sort that the people are quite united in their demands, who should be actually held accountable for the problems we are going through right now, especially from a leadership perspective?
Well, the unity you're talking about in this particular period is just about disguising. It's not the real one. It is a temporary things. The real one has not been surfaced yet. And if you want us to tell the truth, we must start it from the scratch.
Please go on.
Thank you. So, if we are to achieve whatever we want, this is democratic settings. A democratic governance, not a military regime, whatever. Definitely people must air their anger, must express if there's any feelings. But do you think government is for what? It's for services. Now, the president, the sitting president is saying, please look at what I've inherited. Not even the immediate past. It is right from the beginning, from onsetting of Nigeria. There are so many things. You know, let's fix this and let's do this. If we can be patient enough for all these years, are we not going to be patient at least 1 year or 2 years to see? It's just barely 1 year. A 1 year on this system, and it's saying yes. And you just do mention about the education of various states. I have 2 states. I don't want to name them, but at least one state in 3 months I've got 37 billion. Where is this money? If you go to that state, I swear you will laugh. If the protest should be taken, unlike this one in the first instance, there are sentiment in it, either we like it or not. Oh, the South is said, no, we will not join them. Who are those that you not join them? At the end of the day, now it's all become a national issue. The agitators of the Yoruba, secession state, the leader came out and said, no, it is not an issue of the North, or Kanuris, or Fulani, or Yorubas. It's all about Nigeria. This is what you were talking about. We should talk about how are we going to be governing as a country first. Let us understand the unity that we're trying to run away from. It is the basic thing that we should achieve first.
Andrew, the hardship has become clearly unbearable. Barrister earlier said that a one-on-one conversation could help solve or at least get us to a good point. Do you actually believe that would happen with, as I said earlier, a tone-deaf government? Because clearly even the president hasn't said anything, and this is day 3 of the protest.
Yeah, thank you very much. A couple of things to respond to with regards to the question, right? So, Honorable, thank you very much. So, I think we need to establish something. Everybody here, at least all 5 of us are Nigerians, right? I don't think anybody wants Nigeria to go ablaze. Anybody wants disunity in Nigeria. Anybody wants Nigeria to go its separate ways. I don't think anybody here is saying that. We want one Nigeria. So the question is, what should come first? Should we, because of peace, then should we have a graveyard peace, graveyard silence, because we're looking for peace? Should we say, oh, because we're looking for peace, then we shouldn't respond and tell the government, this is what we want and this is how we want it? The major debate here is about still the issue of governance. Who determines, so one person becomes the president, I agree, but who determines how and what the country should be run? Who determines that? Who should say that? I think naturally it should be the people. So we, the people. So that is where the thing comes to play. So I was giving the analogy of social contracts, right? From civil society, then you have the legislators that are supposed to, or civil society organizations as well, that are supposed to represent the people. But naturally, the legislators should be more on the side of the people. But most times, because of our crime, most times they do not all the time represent the interest of the people. They are more aligned to the executive. But they are supposed to actually be the voices of the people. And if the legislators, trust me, I'm not talking about just the National Assembly, the State Assembly, even the local government councillors. right? So they have that role to play to be able to hold the executive accountable on behalf of the people. So when that fails or that does not provide adequate or sufficient measures, then citizens will then come up and say, oh, we are demanding for more. No, at what point do we then wait? So when you say, okay, 1 year is not adequate, 1 year is not enough, so what is enough? The Honorable says that the last administration or previous administration, we have seen issues and maybe the last administration failed. So we have seen the current government saying that they inherited a bad government, bad economy. So what that says is that they are saying that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari failed. So if that administration failed, don't forget, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, we kept hearing, let's give them some time, let's give them some time. It took us 8 years, but after 8 years, we then kept saying, oh, this government failed. At what point did 8 years just go by and we did not know? So should we wait for another 4 years for us to then start making our demand and asking? We're not saying, what we're saying, let's come to the table, let's come to the negotiation table and look at the whole issue of governance. It's not about dividing this country. What is the body language of the president? Have we asked ourselves some fundamental question about this protest? Why is it that wherever there is a government-supported protest or pro-government protest, there is never vandalization, there is never a counter group? Why is it that? But whenever there is an anti-government protest, you are always having, people will loot, people will die. So why is it that? So who is afraid of protest? Why is it that in 2011, I was part of that protest, the fuel subsidy protest, right? Why is it that it went smoothly and calmly? And the president responded, and Nigerians went for days. Our current president was one of the sponsors of that protest, which is not a bad thing, right? So why is it that protest those days, or that particular protest, is different from protest these days? Why? You know why? The body language of the number one citizen is very important. If President President Tinubu today says, this is my position on protest, protect, allow them, do not allow any infiltration, the protest will go smoothly. They will have lost about 20 lives. The last count. These are lives, these are human beings. This can be anybody here. So these are lives, these are human beings. It's not just statistics, these are not figures. Nigerians are suffering. We just did a research, or went out to the field to find out, okay, what are the coping mechanisms of Nigerians? If you hear stories, you would weep. I'll tell you two. One, a boy that used to transport himself by bike to school. There was no longer money from the parents to go to school, so he started walking to school. And this particular period, he was sick. It walked about 45 minutes. And he was sick, he had to go to school to write an exam. He went to school, walked to school in Lagos. He walked to school, 45 minutes, got to school, slumped and died. Parents are crying and crying. That is how that affected them. A woman, same Lagos, has cancer. And 2 of her sons who are involved in importation and all that, Badagry and all that, the economy affected them. They lost their job. And normally those boys are the ones, 2 of them, that give her money for treatment, chemo and all of that. But the money ceased, and for a while, for about a year, or no, not a year, about 6 months or so, she stopped going for treatment. And she says, how are you coping? She says, for the pain, she has breast cancer. She uses rubber band. She uses rubber band just to ease the pain, but there's nothing she can do. There are several stories of how Nigerians are coping with the current reality that is facing us. And we cannot just sit down and be quiet and like, okay, let's give government a chance. We are giving government all the chance. But what we are saying is, government, why we are doing this? Are there things that we agree that here we can do better, right? Are there things that we can do? Yes. Let us look at the cost of governance. First subsidy was removed, right? And the allocation, like Honorable said, to the state government, to the federal government, most of the allocation has more or less doubled. Mm-hmm. So if the allocation has doubled, we should see it translated in the lives of Nigerians. The National Assembly budget in 2023 and 2024, it was 220-something billion in 2023. Even when we were fighting, it was much. But guess what? It has gone up to 500-something billion. in the current budget because fuel subsidy has been removed. So what is almost doubling in the National Assembly in terms of expenditure? So our resources, are they going the right way? Why are we not NMPC that accounts for our major exports in the country? Why can't we be so transparent and accountable within the NMPC? So there are clear things that we can deal with that does not have anything to do with whether what anybody wants the government out or not. That is not it. Nobody wants the government out. We all want peace, but we all want a better society. Or else, we are saying that this problem did not start today. 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, we will keep referring to today. That this is, the thing did not start today. What were we doing 20 years ago? I don't want to be part of that. I am a leader in my organization. People hold me accountable. My staff hold me accountable. My team hold me accountable. And the leader I know is the president, is the governor, is the local government chairman. Those are the leaders we know. And the senators and the House of Rep members. Those are the leaders we know. And we must, as citizens, hold them accountable. That is the basic minimum we have as a responsibility as citizens of Nigeria.
Andrew, you've mentioned several valid points. And just to say, in a couple of minutes, we have Senator Maitoki, who would be joining us to give responses about the perspective of the legislative arm and to also answer some questions. But talking about coping mechanisms, even amongst the privileged, I realized that most people have stopped eating meat. They now eat eggs. Eggs on its own has now even become expensive because egg is now 200 naira. And people are now sharing an egg. A tuber of yam, and I'm from Benue State where yam is what we know, in most parts of the country has gone as high as 7,000 naira to 10,000 naira. You go to restaurants now, they don't serve pounded yam anymore. And I was laughing about it. I love pounded yam as a Benue man. But I recalled that in the last couple of months, I've been eating eba. And that's to show you that, like Barrister said, it affects every single person. But here are also some of the facts. While the government is saying there's no money, they met a bad system, 20 billion naira was put to renovating the residence of the vice president. They didn't wait for Nigeria to get more money for that. In 3 days, in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, it was reported that 30 billion was transferred out of their accounts. Till date, we don't know the full outcome, even though it's been investigated. We also have a minister who was suspended because of some transactions. We don't have any feedback on that. We have the former CBN governor who claims that he did certain things responding to the request of the presidency, and today he's been prosecuted. It goes on and on and on. Just a couple of weeks ago at the National Assembly, and I do give them credit, we saw the Minister of Women Affairs where she was being asked how did they use 1.5 million naira to fuel cars to travel within the country. And so you're telling Nigerians to calm down. You're telling Nigerians to give it time. However, we're not seeing any bit of reduction in the cost of governance from the part of the government. But back to protests. The former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, who joined the likes of Adams Oshimole, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to protest a couple of years ago, once President Buhari got into power, the Unity Fountain, which was the gathering point for protest in Abuja, was cordoned. They built fences around it to stop people from being able to express their civil rights. Just last week, a court gave an order in Abuja stating that protesters should be limited to the Moshood Abiola Stadium, which is out of reach and quite at a distance. You are a lawyer. While it's our fundamental human right to be able to protest, do you think that the government is stifling the rights of the people when we see court orders such as, you can only... We've seen that in Lagos, we've seen that in Abuja, we've seen that in some states, even though the people have still moved out to other places. Do you think it's legal how the government has approached this case?
Thank you very much, sir. I was trying to be extremely calm and be careful with my words, choice of words, in order not to instigate one or two, but sincerely, I will let it out. After listening to Honorable submission, I will come back to your question. I will just take just a second. Now, when the masses die, you have nobody to govern. Who will you rule? If you want peace, and in the process of trying to achieve that peace and unity, every single individual dies, it is useless and needless. Back to your question, sir. Section 40 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria gives the masses the right to be part of any group, to protest, and express themselves. Section 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides that every provision of any other act, ruling that is inconsistent with the provision of this Constitution is null and void. Ab initio, from the beginning. Now, the body language of the government has shown us clearly that they are not interested in whatsoever plight the masses hold, in whatsoever prayer or request they have. Why do I say this, sir? Running to a court to get an order to restrain the masses from exercising their fundamental human rights is a breach of the fundamental human right in its nature, in the nature of that order. I will be very fast. Sir, looking at the scenario that played out 2006, while Adams Oshomole was still Nigerian Labour Congress chairman, yeah? When similar action was taken, Adam Oshomole said he sees that order as a black market order. Now they are in power. The same process which happened that time has replayed. As a Nigerian, your fundamental right, it is not just a constitutional given right, it is a God-given right. It is seen as a God-given right, a right from God. It cannot be taken, irrespective of where it is coming from, irrespective of who wants to halt that right. And that is why it is called fundamental human right. It is the right of the general public. Going to get an order restraining protesters from protesting without even looking at the main reason. Nobody is saying end your government. See, I have come across some certain Nigerians that if you ask them, I pray the prayer for them. I say, Mama, the way you did this thing, you don't worry, we'll vote for you come 2027. She said, God forbid. We have so many Nigerians that don't want to even become president of this country. I'm telling you for a fact, sir. We are not interested. The protesters are not interested in the seat. They have given you, they said, reverse the policy that has made life hard for us. It is only reasonable and ideal. Democracy only comes to play when the government gives listening ears to this cry. I think my own definition of democracy is a government that listens to the people. That should be my own definition. You are empowered by the government to lead, by the masses to lead. In fact, the mandate you carry is that of the masses. You are building Nigeria for who? We received all of this process from during colonial era. During colonial era, we got all of this method of containing protests, protest rights to protest, how to reduce the harshness when it comes to violence in protests. And we got it from foreign nations, from the UK, from Europe, from our colonial masters. Now, the same country you got this from, this same method is not applied there, does not apply there. This same, I was coming, sir, I saw over 16 in-laws, army from Gwagwalada. What was that for? Of army in a civil protest. You have already concluded even before the existence of the protest that there will be violence.
Would you say all of this is an intimidation tactic by the
Yes,
government?
sir, by the government. That is it. The protests have not started. The protests to start 1st of August. Before 1st of August, you started rolling out military personnel in a civil protest. All the police officers are tying red band. I was coming from Gwagwalada. I saw one with cutlass. It was just on the main road, meaning you are ready for the worst. Now, the death that has been recorded, how did it come about? Was it the masses fighting themselves? We should be truthful to ourselves. The right of even the citizens have been infringed on by the government.
We can't talk about the protests without the fact, and Andrew has alluded to that whenever you have protests, you also have criminal elements who come and play a role in it, which I find very unfortunate.
Sir,
I've
sorry,
seen some
this
of
is
that.
it.
Yes.
I want you to look at, we are looking at the body language of the government. Before the protests,
Yes, there were tons of threats, and the reaction to it wasn't one of a listening ear. And I did watch I think Chief of Defense Staff speak a couple of days ago, which may explain why you've seen the military. At what point should law enforcement come in to maintain peace and order based on the violence we've seen, mostly perpetrated by law enforcement agents recently? At what point do we have that balance? After that, then we'll let Honorable
even the Police Act,
yes,
the Police Act gives a provision where when you have such protests, the police should come and guide the citizens. You are meant to guide them. You are meant to protect them during that protest. We saw the daughter of Mr. President. It's all over social media. When she was warning people, telling them not to come out for protest. They should wait and allow fathers tend not to get to 3 years first before coming out for protest. It is not a family thing. The body language of the government has already shown us that they are ready to destroy the whole process.
we need to bring in Honorable.
Yeah, Honorable, earlier you said the unity that this protest has brought is not, what like you would expect more, basically. But we have to actually commend what we've seen so far. So, but how do we get to that point of unity that you speak of?
Thank you very much, my sister, my brothers, especially the barrister. But I forgot to appreciate Action Aid. I'm from Borno State. Actually, I know what they have done to the masses of Borno, and up to now they are praying for you. I really appreciate what you have done there during that event days and the rest of it. My brother, you see, let us not go back to grammar. We learn these things with time, but the unity first is not negotiated. Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is just one man among us. If we should look at the things that fault events like that, we should appreciate him, applaud him. He's the first person to stage a protest against the military relief for democratic settings, and that's what we found ourselves in now. Issue of in this protest, there are 20 people die or 30 people died, whatever. How about those before the protest, the people dying every day in the north? More especially that we cannot even go to the farms. You see, we need the unity. It is not about the government. It is about we are separating ourselves. In the name of what? In the name of grammar. And nobody wants to go to the point. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, let me use this one. I'm not saying, I don't know Wike or there about the Minister of FCT, but I've seen what he has done to Abuja. Look at the road that he just swing into action and see things that he can see the result. But though I know there was a late foundation before he continued with it, nobody should run away from it. Rome was not built in a day. If you really want to achieve that, let's accept ourselves as Nigerians. Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, whatever, Muslim Christians. That's first thing we should achieve first. All this sentiment here, this one I've called, all those people taking law into the hand of Allah will not take us anywhere. Until when we accept who are we? Of course, we are the leaders of the giant of Africa, for God's sake. What is wrong with us?
Honorable, I believe we're down to accept who we are, but we need food to eat. before we have
Fine.
the energy to do that.
The journey has started. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has never altered any one single word of any kind of word that will warrant. He said, please, Nigerian, be patient. I have this situation, we will do it. You know, there is one word in civil service terminology says, damage controls. There are damages, must be, this damage control, this is what we are facing at the moment. Let us pray. God is single God, and let's take this country back, for God's sake.
Thank you very much, Honorable. And we'll wrap that up now. Andrew, I'll give you 1 minute to speak, but just as a point of correction, yes, the president may not have tried to separate the people, but who you surround yourself with matters. In the last couple of days, you've seen comments and rhetorics by his advisor, Bello Onanuga. You've seen comments by the likes of Reno Omokri, who has blamed Peter Obi for the chaos in Kaduna State. You've seen the likes of Buala and other people who are around him. So it's doing a huge disservice to the president, regardless. So even if he's not the one doing it, which is why I said earlier, where is Mr. President? So he's also doing himself a disservice by not coming out and speaking to the people directly. But I do agree with you on the need for us to unite,
Yes.
for us to come together and ensure that we have this one country. We all love Nigeria. Andrew, 1 minute, I'll let you wrap up this segment.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to all we have spoken about. I think we all agree that we want unity. We want a one united Nigeria, but we want a one united, prosperous, and harmonious Nigeria.
Definitely.
That people would be able to feed. Let us eat. I think the time for the president to address the nation is not too much. If you look at the list of demand, the president comes and says, we agree that there is hunger. We agree these are the things we are doing. But from your list, these are the things we will do. We will cut governance this way. We are not saying stop being president. We will cut this part of governance. We would increase costs in this way. We would increase security. Let's go to farms. 70% of smallholder women farmers whom we work with, ActionAid, we have 2 million of them that we are working with. 70% of them said that insecurity hampers their production by up to 50%. So those are the kind of things that the president would then prioritize. Just speak to Nigerians. And I'm sure all of this will be quelled down. All of this will just go normal. And we'll then hold him accountable to those things. Put timeline to those things and say, these are the things we will do. Those are the things we're asking for. Nigerians are very easy to please. Nigerians are very resilient people. They take everything. But if by the time you push the wall, like you said, then people will react. We don't want to react and have a failed state. We want Nigeria to be a prosperous state. But our president, our governors, our local government chairmen, our government officials should be able to do the bidding of the citizens and not what they think should be the right thing to be done. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your contribution and for your love and passion for Nigeria. We will be continuing the conversation, but we'll take a quick break for our sports update, after which we'll be joined live in the studio by a seventh Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Maidoki, to hear his own perspective on the ongoing protest and what can be done, especially the role of the National Assembly. See you shortly after this break.